Welcome to the Chronic Health Collective. This isn't just a community, it's a fresh start. We've gathered the best coaches and experts to help you reclaim your energy, to heal from the inside out, and live with purpose. Whether you're longing for more energy, deeper healing in your relationships, or a life that feels more aligned and fulfilling, you are not alone. Happy New Year. So glad to be with you. I am Leandra Frey. I am a life and dating coach. And today's topic, we are going to be talking about healing after a heartbreak, whether that is a divorce or you just got out of a relationship, you're in a new season. And so a lot of the work that I do as a life and dating coach is I help people figure out how to move past their past and create something new for their future. So we'll be learning a few things, couple of tools, and then just some thought process that would help you get through that, and then how to move forward into your new future, because 2026 is a very powerful year. And just, we're in the second half of our 20s. So that is pretty amazing. And so for you that don't know me, I'm part of this health collective, but part of you guys don't know part of my past and why I became a dating coach is once long ago, I was married. I was married to a fellow from New York. And at the time that I met him, I was living in New York City and I was dating. It was at the height of Sex and the City. The Sopranos were on TV. And I was living and working in Manhattan, and I was living the dream. And so when a tall, dark Italian fellow came by, I was smitten, because I was like, well, hey, I'm in New York City and it is, the Sopranos. So we immediately started dating, and I thought I was winning because I was like, hello, come on. And yeah, we got married shortly after meeting, maybe a couple of years, and I really thought I was winning, but little did I know how much values are important to choosing your husband. And so we got married. Our foundation and our values were probably not the best thing that had not had great stability. And so right after we got married, we had a couple of things that happened, which was just both of us moving back to Texas, not moving back to Texas, me moving to Texas, and then him coming to Texas, which put on a lot of stress on our very young marriage. My mom was sick with a long-term illness, and then she passed away. And in the middle of that, I lost my high-paying job, the one that had taken me to New York. And so because our marriage did not have the foundation, to just any good foundation, it crumbled easily over those life circumstances. And those three big events happened in the course of 18 months. And so we didn't have a chance. And so we got divorced shortly thereafter. I think we lasted maybe 3 years on paper. It was devastating. I cannot begin to tell you how devastating it was for me, especially my parents. They had been married 40 plus years, literally till death do they part. And also my identity, I was a mess, right? I had lost my job, and now I'd lost my mom, and then now I lost my marriage. So my heart and my identity had just fallen to the wayside. And so I just didn't know how to recover. I didn't know anything about life coaching back then. I don't think they existed. There was therapy, there was grief share, I think, which is still in effect. Grief share is super important. But trying to handle all those losses at once definitely put me into, I wouldn't say a deep depression, but just devastating loss. And so thanks to my friends, my church, my family, they really got me through that. I did not hide. I did not do the thing where we kind of retract from the world. I do have my past self to thank myself for not doing that. We'll talk about how that really helped me move past the heartbreak. But I wanted to set the stage for you guys because I know some of you guys in your new year, 2025 may have been a devastating year for you guys, whether it was a divorce, a death, an illness, a loss of job, right? All of those attack our identity. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, about our thinking. And so, and with this being said, today, I usually like to call it the Heartbreak Clinic because we're going to learn how to heal our heart faster and not spend so many years spinning over what the past or what could have been or what I should have done. We go into the thing where it's like, I shouldn't have gotten married, and we're not doing that today. So I really want to talk about how you can move past that heartbreak, right? So that's a little bit what we're going to do. But first, we're going to talk about a tool that I use in my coaching. We may have talked about it in some of my past webinars, but if this is new to you and you needed to see it another time, we're going to talk about that, and that is the model. Then we're going to talk about how to let go of the past and not live in regret, and then we're going to talk about getting unstuck and then planning for the future. So we got chock full of stuff today, and I'm excited. But the first thing we're going to talk about is called and I probably should tell you, I didn't even tell you, I did recover, and now I'm happily married since 2018. So forgot to tell you, I have 2 dogs and 2 cats with my very cute husband, and he is super sweet, and we have all the tools that we need to make it through our own circumstances, and we have a good foundation. But that's for another webinar, talking about having the right values and foundation for your getting married again. So today I'm going to talk about the model, and it is a thought tool that was created by a lady named by the name of a lady called Brooke Castillo of the Life Coach School, where I got Life Coach certified. But it's just a tool that is similar to that of looking at what your thoughts are creating. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? We talk about transforming and having thoughts similar to Eckhart Tolle, which is The Power of Now, Byron Katie, and we have Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. If you've ever read some of those works, it's about how your thoughts create your results and overcome your circumstances. So those are all great books. And then the final book that I always like to talk about that really talks about your thoughts is the Bible. If you read about Romans, it's always about the renewing of your mind. And actually, it's everywhere in the Bible, but not just the mind, the heart, right? It talks about the heart. And what are we talking about today? The heart. So, but there are some components to the model. And I just want to say it's nothing new under the sun, but it's just a different way of thinking about how you're thinking, how you can see what you're thinking. I got to go shut the blinds because there's a little bit of a glare for this beautiful day in our neighborhood. I'm in Texas right now, so enjoy. Okay, so we have 5 components of the model, and that is, we have circumstances. Let me make sure you can see that. Actually, let me move. Okay, circumstance. It's 5 components: circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, and then results. Okay. So at any given moment, your brain is thinking about thoughts about a certain circumstances, which is generating feeling and actions. And actions is behavior, what most people hear about behavior, and it's creating a result. So an example of that, a circumstance is a fact. It's something that can be proven in a state of law. So it's not an opinion or anything. It's a fact. It can be something someone said or something someone did, or it could be like the temperature is 65 degrees here in Texas, right? So I'll give you an example of what that looks like. A circumstance I'll give is, we'll talk about my hair. My hair, I used to have green hair. So someone gave me their thoughts about my green hair one day. And so it was Leandra has green hair. Okay. And her thought, we actually did a thought model on it. She has green hair. She was like, she goes, oh, she goes, I thought you were liberal, right? I think she goes, I think you are liberal, right? And she didn't like liberals. So she kind of had some resistance toward me, right? So her thoughts, I had green hair as a circumstance. There was a proof at that time, and I have pictures of that it was, I'm trying to think. Yeah. So, oops. Yeah. Green hair. I have green hair. The thoughts are, I think that she thought you're a liberal because I have green hair. And then the feeling that she had was she doesn't like liberals. So she had some resistance, right? And so one of her actions, we met in a networking group, was one of her actions was she doesn't like liberals. Remember that? So she's like, not talk to me, right? Not talk to me. Oh, she goes, I think you're a liberal and I don't like liberals, right? So she's like, I don't like liberals. That's her thought. So not talk to me. She also did not connect with me, right? You're supposed to like, share business cards, share businesses, all those things. So she didn't talk to me. She didn't connect with me. So these are your actions are related to what you're doing or not doing, right? So it would be like, in this case, she's like, she doesn't like me. So everything that her behavior is like, no. And she would not talk to me, not sit next to me. I mean, it could be a myriad of things, not sit next to me, and not speak well of me, right? Not speak well of me. Or ignore me, right? Basically, she was ignoring me. Okay. So the result here is now in this case, I'm giving you her thought model. So usually we try to do with other people, but I'm just giving you an example of what hers was. But her was like, she's like, I don't like liberals. I just don't like you, right? And that's pretty easy. But a lot of times what we want to show is that our thoughts are tied to our results. So usually if you're thinking that someone's a jerk, you're like, they're a jerk. And then we do a bunch of actions where we're like, we talk about how terrible they're a jerk, or we don't sit next to them. Then you become the jerk, right? You become the one who's disliked. In this case, she's like, I don't like them, or I'm the one who becomes disliked. We actually become a product of our thoughts. Now, we have about 70,000 thoughts, 60,000 thoughts that are running amok in our mind at any given moment. This is just an example of one, but the one that most pervasive comes up, right? So, but this is what she would tell me. She's like, yeah, I just didn't like you. And I thought you were liberal. And I thought all these things about you. And then you proved me wrong. And then obviously she's like, you were such a nice person, or, not saying liberals aren't nice people, but she had an opinion. And she almost didn't give me a chance, right? Because of a thought that she had. And so part of the work that I do with the dating space is you have an initial thought about someone, but we still have to go past that to look at really what is the person is all about, right? And that's the work that we do as human beings, but we have to really see it in our brain. This helps see what's really going on. So a lot of times when I'm working with this particular thought, or I'm working with someone and they may not know what their thought is. It might be a behavior. So it might be like, for example, I tend to eat, I like crunchy things. And so when I'm nervous, I like to crunch on things. So a lot of times I'll have to identify, why am I wanting to eat a bunch of chips? It doesn't come out of the clear blue sky. A lot of times it's because I'm nervous. And it could be nervous about my business. It could be nervous that I'm about to fly on a plane. I get nervous when I'm about to fly. And that generates all sorts of behavior. So you always got to be checking your thoughts. But the reason I'm showing you this is where we're going for our working on our hearts is we got to see what our thoughts are and what is causing us pain, and how we can honor our feelings and thoughts and then move through them. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. And one of the thoughts that we're going to be looking at, three thoughts that come off of divorces, is distrusting, self-sufficient independence, and if only I wish. So we're going to be talking about those three things and really delving in and how that shows up in someone's dating life, how that shows someone when we're grieving or if we're really mad or we lost something, how it can really impact our life if we're not paying attention to what's in our brain. And then how to move to other thoughts, right? So we will be talking more about this after the break. So looking forward to that, because and that's only the three pervasive thoughts that happen after a divorce or a breakup, is especially the if only I had known, if only I had broken up sooner, if only he hadn't done this, if only, we're going to be talking a lot about that. So, but we wanted to identify what that looks like in your brain. Stay tuned. Looking forward to it.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
When you look in the mirror, do you see skin that's just dry, tired, and stressed? It's time for a new ritual. Introducing Deep Love, the Blue Botanical Face Cream by Coolness. We've captured their tranquil essence of blue botanicals in a cloud-soft formula that deeply soothes irritation and restores your natural, healthy glow. This isn't just skincare, it's an act of self-care. It's Deep Love. Find your calm only at coolness.com. Scan the QR code now to visit our website.
Hi, I am Leandra Frey. I am a life and dating coach. I help women that have gone through a divorce, widowhood, or if it's been a long time since they've been in a relationship, I help them get back on their feet, gain courage and confidence to get back into the dating world and find the love of their lives in 6 months or less. The reason I do this is, having been divorced myself, I have been out in the world, the dating world, what I would call the gauntlet. And it can be hard when you've come off a divorce, or you've come off a long time breakup, and you find yourself starting and stopping, starting and stopping. And sometimes you stop and many years can go by. And so what I'm here to do and help you is to help you along the way so that you don't give up on yourself, and that we learn to create resilience in your dating so that you can keep going and not waste 5, 7, 12 years of your life thinking there's no one out there for you. There are many people out there for you. There is someone looking for you today. So that is why I do what I do, because I love bringing people together, because we are all created for love and connection. Okay. Welcome back. Okay, so we were talking about the model, right? About how it helps you see what you're thinking and why you're doing the things that you want to do, helps you notice what's causing you to do some of the things that you're doing, and choosing if we want to keep those thoughts, if we just want to honor those thoughts, or if we want to eventually up level and change them, especially if we're trying to change our life, which a lot of what we're trying to do in 2026, especially in a new year, we're like, I want to lose weight, or I want to find love, or I want to make 100,000, all the things, right? But in this particular, what we're learning is we're going to talk about the thoughts that are holding us back from when we've gone through a heartbreak, right? So I had a couple of clients last year, 2025, that were doing the dating thing, and there was some things that did not work out. There was some people they really liked, and they had to go through a mini heartbreak, no big long year ones, but sometimes you meet a nice person, have to date them a couple 2 to 3 months, and then realize, hey, it's not a match. Not huge heartbreak, but enough where they have to go through some thought processes and decide if they want to go again and how to choose to go with all the new things that they learn. Now, when you're coming off a huge, long 5-year relationship, a divorce, we kind of want to retract and stay into ourselves and not do anything. We just want to wish everyone away. And so one of the thoughts that we want to talk about is distrust, right? So when I'm working with people, especially if it's been a long time since they've been divorced, they were like, I just don't trust anyone, right? So they'll say, I just don't trust men. My husband, there may been either financial infidelity or romantic infidelity. Who knows? It could have been a myriad of different things. So, but one of the feelings that kind of throw people off, and let me show you my screen again. There we go. Yeah, is I don't trust anyone, right? I don't trust men, especially if there's been any of those 2 or 3 things, right? So it could be, remember, we learned, I'm trying to make sure. Okay, so we have, yes, you can see that. Okay, so we have our circumstance, and your circumstance may have been, we'll just go with, we'll do a regular, he cheated on me, right? So, he cheated on me, right? With my best friend. I actually had a client recently that was her past. He cheated on me with my best friend, right? Okay. So her thought, she could have a lot of thoughts, but her thought at that time is, I don't trust men, right? That's a thought that got generated. And then her feeling, we talked about what her feeling was, is distrustful, right? Distrusting. Okay. And then we have her actions and behavior that are related to this thought. I don't trust men, right? So what does that look like? Okay. Well, we know the number one thing that is that we just don't date, right? We don't date. She probably also, I don't flirt, talk to men, right? Because if she did, then maybe she would get on a date. Also probably complains about men. You'll hear them. You can usually see if someone it's pretty easy. Like if someone has been, cheated on, you'll hear the story, right? So you'll hear them complain about X, right? There's also some thoughts that are generated, might think poorly of myself, but for the most part, we'll look at the actions, but you'll hear complaints about X, talk badly about men in general, right? We start generalizing, talk about men badly, right? You'll start generalizing, right? If my man cheated on me, then all men are cheerleaders, or cheater. So we start generalizing, right? Sometimes we call them narcissistic. Start calling them names. We're all narcissistic, right? Okay, right. So we don't trust men, and then our results on that, right, is, I know we're gonna be like, what? How's this show up? It's like, yeah, you don't trust yourself with men because it's reflective of you, right? So, just myself with men, right? You're not trusting men, but in the end, it's like we just create, we would say, because most people are like, oh, you created a wall, right? It's because so much you're not trusting others, you're not trusting yourself to make a good decision about who you could possibly meet. So he cheated on me with my best friend. I don't trust men, just trusting, right? So her feeling is distrusting. So her actions and behavior are, I don't date, I don't talk to men, I talk badly about men, I complain about my ex. If there's kids involved, we might complain to our kids about our ex. We start generalizing, we call them narcissistic. And then in the end, your result is that you don't trust yourself, right? Which sounds counterintuitive. Most people don't like this part of the model, but that's usually what happens. We are tied to this, right? Our thoughts are what's creating our results. Now, someone that first sees this, when my client first saw this, she was like, whoa, I just don't like that. But she hadn't been married in a very long time because she had spent a lot of energy not trusting men and then bad mouthing him, right? Now, this is just an example. There's several, I've worked with others. And then she hadn't got married. But then the question was, when I ask a client, is like, hey, like, do you want to get married? Do you want to get married again? Do you want to try to remarry, right? Well, that requires some opening up of your heart and start to trust again, right? So we would change this whole model to possibly not saying, I trust men wholeheartedly. We don't do that. But we start saying, I trust myself to make a good decision, to choose the right guy. Or we start saying, my past does not dictate my future, right? My past is not my fortune teller. And that's a lot of times we'll just stay in the past of what that is. So this is an example of what a thought that can hold women back. Men too, right? If their spouse cheated or if there was infidelity and we say, never again, I won't ever get married again. I was just working with a divorce attorney just prior to this. And she's like, I have clients that are like, never again. And then I have clients that try again. So I'm like, hey, that's great. But also, like, I want people are created for love and connection. We want to give it a chance. But we got to identify when there is a thought like this. Is this what's showing up? And you get to ask the question, is this true? Is this kind? And does it serve me? This may have served you for a year, right, after your divorce, but it eventually stops serving you over time, right? Like if it's 20 years past your divorce, you're believing everything that happened 20 years ago. And now, that happened when you were 40 and then it's 60. Now, for me, I didn't have quite a thought like this. It was maybe I don't trust someone with my heart. But I still had to move past that. Otherwise, I realized, oh my gosh, it could be 12 years before I get married again. Or date again, right? I didn't get married again, date again. I wanted more than that. And I had to look at my thinking. Okay, so that was one of the thoughts. We're not going to solve this today. Right now, I just want you to consider it if that's what's holding you back and how it's showing up in your life. So if you're finding yourself like complaining, you have to ask, what's the initial thought, right? And what that looks like. Okay, so the other thought that comes up sounds, you're going to be like, what? This is not a terrible thought. No, it's not, but it does create some stuff. Okay, so usually after a divorce, there's a lot of, all of a sudden you are on, we went from 2 incomes to 1 income. There may have been financial infidelity, but there's a lot of stuff that happens where all of a sudden we're having to do stuff by ourselves, right? Where we're like, I'm a single mom, or I have to do all these things. And so then there's this thought that is, I am independent, I'm going to say self-sufficient. Okay. And this is a very alluring thought, and it's preached all over our social media, or not, just not social media, but like our movies, our songs, like Destiny's Child, Independent Women, Miss Independent, Kelly Clarkson, Good as Hell, Lizzo, I Don't Need Anyone, Mary J. Blige, like all those songs, right? We have this independence, right? Independence. But the circumstance could be, sorry, I forgot to give you the circumstance. It could be like, you are now divorced, right? I am living by myself, divorced, right? Okay, sounds not bad, right? This is okay. I'm self-sufficient. And so when I came out of my divorce, I was like, well, I got to learn to do things by myself and be by myself, you know, listen to all the songs. The feeling is also self-sufficient. The feeling is like independent, maybe. Not a bad, this is not negative. I just want you to notice some of the things that prevent us from moving on. Okay. So when you are self-sufficient, one of the things that happens is we don't ask for help. Okay. Okay. We don't ask for help. We do it all by ourselves. Do it, whatever that thing is, by ourselves. We may look on men with, what's their point? I say disdain, but like, what's their purpose? And then we just kind of, we stop asking for help, and we may stop dating, right? Because we don't need men, right? Men, I mean, what do we need men for, right? That's the mentality, right? And then my result is I am all by myself. Now, this is pretty simple, but I wanted to give this to you anyway. Is that when I was coming off my divorce, was one of the things that I was thinking about, was like, yeah, I'm independent, except I didn't want to be independent. I probably should say I didn't want to get divorced. I really loved my husband at the time. And but I was like, everyone was like, yeah, you're by yourself and you can do it, and you own your own apartment and pay for your own car and blah, 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 right? And so I was like, yeah, okay, great. But so much that even in my work, when I worked in the 9 to 5, you know, in the corporate arena, like I just also didn't ask for help at work, right? I didn't ask for feedback. I didn't get people's opinions, because in my mind I was like, well, I can do it all by myself. You know, I can do it all by myself. Like, and not that I gotta do it, but sometimes that thought shows up, is I gotta do it, is I can do it. And I go into this can do mentality, but it pushes people away, because we're created for relationships, and you need help when you're doing big projects at work or even at home. And so those are some things to consider when you're in this state of I'm self-sufficient, because sometimes we're quite unaware that it actually can push people away. And in this case, if you're trying to date again, you might just be like, what's your point? Like, what's your value? We don't see the value in others, right? And if I was doing that at work, right, or even with my family, like I would be like, you know, my brother, I always talk about my brother, but I didn't have a good relationship with him. It was non-existent, because I'm like, what's the point? I'm fine by myself. I don't need my family. But it comes off very, it's like an easy thought, but not a problem. You just want to look at it. I'm self-sufficient and also want to be, you know, also am created for connection, right? You can still be independent, but you can also not so much that it's a badge of honor. So we just want to take a look at it. A lot of these things that we're doing is we're just taking a look at things so that you're very clear on, is this creating the life that I want for, you know, the year, right? Like, you know, if it's the first year out of a divorce, okay, sure. You know, you got to survive. I get that. You got to survive. You got to, you know, figure out the custody. You got to figure out how to make your own money. Yeah. For about a year, 18 months, you're a little bit in survival, but at some point you come out of survival. At some point you figure it out. At some point, I was barely making it for like the year after my divorce. but at some point I started flourishing again, but I needed to let go of this. I don't need anybody, right? So you want to be aware of that. So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the if only I wish mentality. And that happens, and what that looks like, and we'll talk a little bit more right after these commercials, is that we're going to be talking about when we live in regret, and it shows up as if only I wish. Those are the two things. If you ever find yourself doing those two things, then that could be possibly holding you back. So it'll be coming up here shortly. I'm really excited to talk about it. It's also really easy to do, not just in relationships, but it could be just, I wish I had taken that job, or if only I had answered that phone call, or if only I had, there's a lot of examples, but I'm going to stick to the love examples from my work that I do. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. We'll see you shortly.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with Coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Hi, I am Leandra Frey. I am a life and dating coach. I help women that have gone through a divorce, widowhood, or if it's been a long time since they've been in a relationship, I help them get back on their feet, gain courage and confidence to get back into the dating world and find the love of their lives in 6 months or less. The reason I do this is, having been divorced myself, I have been out in the world, the dating world, what I would call the gauntlet. And it can be hard when you've come off a divorce, or you've come off a long time breakup, and you find yourself starting and stopping, starting and stopping. And sometimes you stop and many years can go by. And so what I'm here to do and help you is to help you along the way so that you don't give up on yourself, and that we learn to create resilience in your dating so that you can keep going and not waste 5, 7, 12 years of your life thinking there's no one out there for you. There are many people out there for you. There is someone looking for you today. So that is why I do what I do, because I love bringing people together, because we are all created for love and connection.
Welcome back. Okay. So one of the other thoughts that hold us back is if only. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you like 5 examples from my past marriage. Is when it was breaking up and it was near the end, I would do this thought, which is, man, if only I had lost 10 pounds, if only he was a Christian, if only I hadn't lost my job, if only I had taken that job, if only we hadn't moved, or I wished he was a Christian. I wished he would have helped when my mom was sick. I wished that he had comforted me when my mom had passed. All of that, right, brings up feelings of regret. Now, those are all thoughts around the demise of my marriage, right? But I played a lot of if only, and some of us will go even further back to when maybe you were dating. You were like, oh, I missed all the red flags, right? If only I had seen that as a red flag, or if only, and if you hear yourself or thinking that, if only, right? And what it does is that it almost creates this new alternative, right? It's this parallel reality that didn't happen, right? It's like we go into fantasy land, and it keeps us in the past, if only. So I always love the scene from, I wish I could play it. It's from Benjamin Button, but it was his wife, the main characters, his wife gets into a bike accident, and it's because there was a moment where the door swung open and she got into this huge bike accident. But the cool thing the movie does is all the moments that lead up to that. There was like 100 moments leading up to that would have had to change the course of the direction. So one of my big thoughts was, okay, if only he had loved Jesus, right? Because I was Christian, he was agnostic. So I thought, well, if he had really loved Jesus, then he would have helped me through my grief, or he would still want to be married. I mean, yeah. And then I went down, you go down this little fantasy path of things that are not true. And then the other big thing was learning to accept the person for who they are or were, right? At the end of the day, like, I was grieving before our marriage ended. I was grieving. My mom had passed away, and we did not have the tool. He did not have the tools. I did not have the tools either. Like, how do you manage when someone loses a parent that young? I was 29 years old, and he did not have the capacity to take care of me when I was grieving. Like, I mean, no one told him how to do that. But I held that against him. Now, I didn't know I was holding it against him. I can see it now, that I was holding it against him, right? I was holding all that against him. And so every time I'd be like, well, if only he had loved me, or if only he had blah, blah, blah. It was all things that he did not have the capacity for, right? So a lot of times, even I'm looking at this from a romantic relationship, but we do the same thing with our childhoods. Right? We look at, like, well, our parents should have done this, or my brother should have done that, or so-and-so should have done that. And it's also like, asking the question is, did they even have the capacity? Did they even know how to do that? Were they even raised that way? Like, those are the questions you want to start asking yourself. Because even when you come into a relationship with someone, you are creating a new marriage, right? If you're creating a new marriage, also you have to look at, hey, do they have the capacity for that? Like, are they built for that? Do they even know how to do that? And if you say, oh, they should know, if you even hear the word should, that should be your cue to be like, oh, whoa, we don't even know that, right? That's my life, not their life. But the big thing on what holds you back from the past and from heartbreak is, and why you stay in heartbreak longer than you think, is because of those if only. I wish. I mean, sometimes I think, like, if I hadn't lost my job, that would have been less stress on our marriage. If I mean, I can think of a million things, and that was not possible for both of us, right? And when you learn to let those if only or I wish thoughts, there's peace, right? When you start to really embrace what the reality was, not an alternate reality, that helps settle us, right? If you look at a lot of the work that people do in the past, it's learning to accept what was and what people had the capacity for. Does it make it right? Does it still suck what we went through? 100%. I'm not dishonoring those thoughts and feelings, but when we stay stuck, that's the key word, is stuck. And just notice if you're doing it. So we talked about 3 big thoughts that hold us back, which is distrust, I'm independent, I'm self-sufficient, right? And then the third one is, if you notice you're doing the if only, or I wish, then you know that those are 3 major thoughts, and they show up in different forms, but just notice that. Your big thing, when you start noticing it, when you really listen to this, is we don't want to have no judgment for having those thoughts. Those are your natural thoughts that are coming. What I want you to notice is just start noticing these thoughts, right? Noticing when you go into a dark mood, or like, it'll be 20 years since my first wedding anniversary, right? If the day of our wedding anniversary comes up and I'm like in a deep, dark thought, I know that I'm probably living in the if only. Right now, I don't do that anymore because I'm happily married and I'm living in a new space. I'm living in my new future. I don't have time to think about that, right? It is what it is. And thank God I love my husband now. But you want to start noticing those thoughts, but have no judgment, and then decide, do I want to keep this? Right? If you ever read the book Soundtracks by John Acuff, he talks about, hey, is this kind? Do I want to keep this thought? And does it serve me? Right? Remember, for a time, these thoughts served you, maybe for a year or two after your divorce. At some point, decide, I no longer keep these. These are no longer serving me, and I get to choose something else. Right? And so that's when you get to decide, hey, I'm at peace. They didn't have the capacity. I'm curious about what is else available for me in my next relationship and final relationship, possibly. Yeah. Okay. So how do you plan for your future? Right. So we talked a lot about the past, but we got to talk about that because we got to know what's keeping you stuck. But now we get to decide, 2026, great year to decide what kind of future do you want. And one of my favorite exercises that you'll do on the end, there's tons of exercises that you can do, but it's always my favorite, is it's a Tony Robbins, like way old exercise, but it's like where you spend 20 minutes, not 20, you take 5 minutes, it's like a piece of paper this size or even a notebook paper, and write things that you desire to do. Put on a timer, 5 minutes. And it could be anything, like I desire to do cookbook, to be a better cook, to run a marathon, to make 100K, to get out of debt, to buy a new car, to get a puppy, to lose weight, to go paddleboarding, whatever. Like I did this right around that time. I was a couple of years after I went through my divorce, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. I did it. And I took that little piece of paper and I put it on my wall. I wouldn't call them resolutions, because they're not. I wouldn't call them the goals. There weren't any of those things. Maybe a vision board, but mostly it was just me free writing. And most of those things did come true over time because I had it visually in front of me. And but it was all things that were creative and brought me joy, which was, I wanted to learn to salsa dance, which I did. I took lessons. I wanted to get nice. If you ever watched Terminator 2, Linda Hamilton, I love her biceps. I really wanted to get really strong like her. And I eventually became a CrossFit coach, which I am a CrossFit coach to this day. I wanted to become a gourmet cook. I didn't become a gourmet cook, but man, I became a great cook. And I did that just by following books in a recipe, or following recipes in one cookbook, like I cooked over the course of a year. Similar to, I forgot that movie, but it was Julia Child movie I loved that the character did. I think it was just called Julia. But anyway, but I did that exercise because a lot of times when we are in the past, right, we don't even think toward the future about what things that really bring us joy, what things that bring us desire. Take the time. It's worth 5 minutes. Put some music on, put a timer on. And even if one thing comes true, it will do wonders. And it's part of self-care. The next thing I really want you to do is I want you to plan 3 things. Right now, that was just a dream exercise. But really start planning, because a lot of times if it's been a year or 20 years since your divorce, we tend to live in the past. We want to live in the future, and we want to plan for something that brings us joy, that brings us love, and that brings us peace. Okay. So, my heartbreak a couple of years ago, actually it's been 3 years. I talked about romantic heartbreak. But we also have heartbreak that shows up in our life, in our day-to-day life. And so one of those is that me and my new husband, who I love so much, we suffered a miscarriage. And one of the things that I remember distinctly doing as tears come to my eyes is I was like, I'm planning for joy. And so I used to do this thing called diva dance, where you would dance. And that brought me joy. And I remember for that season of grief, and because I learned from my divorce, like, hey, we want to be moving towards something that brings joy and give you space to grieve, was that I signed up for a dance recital. So I was like, what am I doing? And I can't get out with all these 20-year-olds that, didn't know a thing about life yet or whatever. But yeah, every Monday we would rehearse, and for like 2 hours straight, my brain was not on my loss. It was on, oh my gosh, I have this recital and I'm going to be doing hip hop. And that space of being somewhere where I was creating something, which was creating, this awesome dance thing, and being with others, and being removed from my circumstance, which was being out of my house where, all the loss felt, very deep. I got myself out of that. And so sometimes whether you're, have lost someone, right, or lost something, or have come out of a divorce, the act of wanting to create joy, whether that's dance or taking a cooking class, or, getting a book club, or I love paddleboarding. You'll see me go paddleboard. My birthday's coming up. I will be paddleboarding on my birthday, even if it's cold. There's all sorts of things that I choose to bring joy, right? The other thing is love, right? So does that mean you go into a romantic space again? Yes, I would encourage you to go into a romantic space. Obviously, the dating space is a little tough, but love could be, how do you want to spend your time, right? So that could be volunteering, doing something that brings love to others. And if that's like, hey, spending time with, your elder relatives, doing something that you normally wouldn't be thinking about, because when you're in the space of loving others, it keeps you from going into yourself, right? So there's choices where you say yes to things that you normally wouldn't say yes to. So, and it really changes how your chemistry goes, right? And then the last thing is learning to choose peace, right? So deciding to be thinking peace, right? Or feeling peace. They're two different things, but still, like, feeling peace, right? We have to think thoughts that bring us peace. We can be like, I'm at peace with this present. If you're Christian, you could be like, God brings me peace. He gives me the peace that surpasses all understanding. Those are the things that you can bring, or I choose peace in spite of everything that's going on in this world. So those are the things that, when you're on purpose, being intentional about what you're doing, instead of just staying in the past. There's grief. Don't get me wrong. Grief takes time. And notice that I've said, if you've gone through a divorce, give yourself a year, right? And by the way, if you are dating someone, I will give, this is an extra tip for you. If you are out there dating and someone is not a year yet out of their divorce, say, I will see you in 6 months or whatever. Wait for them to get past that time, because a lot of times someone may not be ready because they're still like stuck on what their husband did or didn't do, or their wife did or didn't do. So you also want to be, hey, give yourself that space. I remember even when I lost my mom, it took me about a year. I didn't have all the tools I have now, so I probably could have done a lot of the things that I mentioned. But the grief, the loss of a relationship is a lot of times loss of a dream. So that's part of the work that you're doing, like noticing what's, it's okay to grieve for the year and a half. Sometimes it takes us longer, especially if we're, it takes us longer, and that's okay. But don't take 12 years is the big thing. So yeah, I love being here with you. I'm here with you in the new year. I am a life and dating coach. All the things that I do work with now is helping you find the love of your life. So the this next month is going to be chock full. We got a vision board workshop coming up. If you're in the Dallas area, join us. We have a dating Q&A workshop that's coming up. So we have all sorts of things. So follow me and you will see all the events. It has been a pleasure. I look forward to in the coming months that is coming. So excited. If today's episode spoke to you, don't go it alone. Book a free consult with one of our expert coaches at chronichealthcollective.com for personalized support. Subscribe to our monthly magazine for expert tips from 11 coaches to elevate your health, mindset, and relationship. Catch us live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central or watch past episodes on E360 TV or youtube.com, Chronic Health Collective. Thanks for tuning in. Your transformation starts now, and we will see you next week. It has been a pleasure. I'm excited for this new year.